John Dewey, one of the most influential philosophers and educators of the 20th century, believed that education should not be confined to rote memorization and passive absorption of knowledge. Instead, he advocated for an approach to learning that is deeply connected to experience, reflection, and social engagement. Dewey's philosophy of education revolved around the idea that learning is a dynamic, interactive process that prepares individuals not only to understand the world around them but also to contribute actively to society. His insights can guide us in living more reflective, engaged, and democratic lives, both personally and collectively. Learning through experience, the active role of the learner. At the heart of Dewey's educational philosophy is the belief that learning is most effective when it is based on real-world experiences. He argued that individuals learn best not by passively receiving knowledge, but by actively engaging with the world around them. This concept of learning by doing is fundamental to Dewey's approach. Rather than being mere recipients of information, students should be participants in the learning process, exploring, questioning, and discovering as they go. In Dewey's view, experiences are the foundation upon which learning is built. Every experience provides an opportunity to connect with the material at hand, and through this active engagement, the learner constructs meaning. This concept not only applies to traditional education settings but also to daily life. Whether through work, social interactions, or personal hobbies, Dewey encouraged individuals to approach life as a continuous process of learning through experience. The deeper the engagement with an activity, the more meaningful the learning becomes. For Dewey, this philosophy expanded beyond the classroom and into every aspect of life. From professional development to personal relationships, the concept of learning through experience encourages individuals to explore, test new ideas, and continuously grow. The real-world application of learning, whether it's solving a problem at work, understanding social dynamics, or pursuing creative projects, helps solidify knowledge in a way that abstract lessons cannot. Reflection, transforming experience into insight. While experience forms the foundation of learning, Dewey also stressed the critical role of reflection in transforming these experiences into meaningful insights. Reflection, for Dewey, is the process of thinking critically about one's experiences, analyzing them, and drawing conclusions that can be applied in the future. It is through this process of reflection that individuals make sense of their encounters with the world and deepen their understanding. Reflective thinking, in Dewey's terms, involves not just recalling what has happened, but actively questioning and evaluating experiences. It requires a level of awareness and critical thinking that leads to better decision-making and personal growth. Dewey believed that without reflection, experiences would remain superficial and disconnected from one's broader learning journey. Reflection helps individuals connect the dots between theory and practice, allowing them to learn from both successes and failures. In modern education, reflection is integrated into practices such as journaling, group discussions, and self-assessment. These activities give students the opportunity to think deeply about what they have learned and how it applies to their personal lives or future challenges. Reflection also helps build emotional intelligence, as individuals begin to understand their own feelings, actions, and responses in the context of their experiences. It is this reflective process that leads to continuous self-improvement and a deeper understanding of oneself and the world. Education as a social process, learning in community. For Dewey, education was not a solitary endeavor, but a deeply social process. He believed that schools should serve as microcosms of society, where students learn not only academic subjects but also the skills required for living in a democratic society. Education, in this view, is about preparing individuals to contribute meaningfully to their communities, to engage in cooperative problem-solving, and to understand and respect diverse viewpoints. Dewey envisioned classrooms as collaborative spaces where students work together, share ideas, and learn from each other. This social learning process fosters a sense of community and teaches students the importance of cooperation, dialogue, and mutual respect. In this way, education becomes a preparation not just for future careers but for active, engaged citizenship. In the modern world, Dewey's social conception of education is more relevant than ever. As the global community becomes increasingly interconnected, the ability to work effectively with others, across cultural, political, and economic boundaries, becomes a vital skill. Schools that emphasize social learning and democratic participation not only prepare students for the workplace but for a life of meaningful social engagement. Dewey's ideas about social education have influenced modern movements for inclusive, participatory, and democratic schools. Democracy and Education, A Way of Life. In his seminal work Democracy and Education, Dewey argued that democracy is not just a political system, but a way of life. For Dewey, democracy involves more than just voting in elections. It is a continuous practice of mutual respect, collaboration, and open communication. Education plays a key role in cultivating the values of democracy, teaching individuals how to live cooperatively and engage thoughtfully in society. Democracy, for Dewey, is about creating a society where individuals respect one another's differences, work together for the common good, and share in the responsibility for creating a just and equitable society. In this view, education is not only a means of passing on knowledge but a tool for shaping the democratic character of individuals. Dewey believed that the classroom should serve as a training ground for democracy, where students practice democratic principles such as equality, free expression, and collective decision-making. This vision of education as a training ground for democracy remains influential today. Dewey's ideas have shaped progressive educational reforms around the world, particularly those that emphasize student voice, participatory decision-making, and community involvement. Schools that adopt Dewey's vision of democratic education encourage students to see themselves not as passive learners, but as active participants in the democratic process. The role of teachers, facilitators of learning and growth. In Dewey's view, the role of the teacher is not that of a mere transmitter of knowledge but as a facilitator who creates a learning environment where students can actively engage with ideas and experiences. Teachers, according to Dewey, should guide students in their exploration of the world, encourage inquiry, and support their personal growth. Rather than simply imparting facts, teachers help students learn how to think critically, solve problems, and make informed decisions. This view of teaching as facilitation has influenced modern pedagogical practices that prioritize student-centered learning. Teachers today are encouraged to create learning environments that stimulate curiosity, foster collaboration, and support the development of lifelong learning skills. Dewey's ideas also highlight the importance of understanding each student's unique needs and learning style. Teachers should act as guides who help students navigate the learning process, providing the tools and support needed to engage meaningfully with the material. The impact of Dewey's ideas is seen not only in the classroom but in the professional development of teachers. Today, many teacher education programs emphasize Dewey's principles of reflective teaching, inquiry-based learning, and democratic engagement. Teachers who adopt these practices are better able to create classrooms that foster creativity, critical thinking, and a sense of agency in their students. The connection between theory and practice, learning that transcends the classroom. Dewey's philosophy emphasized the importance of bridging the gap between theory and practice. Knowledge should not be confined to abstract concepts but should be tested and applied in real-world contexts. Dewey believed that theory, when disconnected from practice, is sterile and irrelevant. It is only through experience that theory becomes meaningful. This idea has shaped the modern educational approach of integrating hands-on, experiential learning into curricula. From internships to project-based learning, Dewey's influence can be seen in educational systems that prioritize real-world application. Whether students are building prototypes, conducting research, or participating in community service projects, these experiences allow them to apply theoretical knowledge in tangible ways, which deepens their understanding and fosters practical skills. By emphasizing the connection between theory and practice, Dewey's ideas also help bridge the gap between education and the professional world. His philosophy encourages students to see their academic work not as disconnected from real life but as a foundation for addressing practical problems and contributing to society. Continuous growth and adaptation, lifelong learning as a core value. Dewey saw learning as a lifelong process, one that continues long after formal education ends. He believed that individuals must remain open to new experiences and ideas, continuously adapting to changing circumstances. This philosophy encourages a growth mindset, an attitude that views challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to success. Dewey's emphasis on lifelong learning has profound implications for both personal and professional development. In today's rapidly changing world, the ability to adapt and learn new skills is essential. Dewey's philosophy encourages individuals to view learning as an ongoing journey, one that is essential for both personal fulfillment and societal progress. Lifelong learning helps individuals stay engaged with the world, contributing to their communities and maintaining their intellectual and emotional vitality. Interdisciplinary learning, connecting knowledge across boundaries. Dewey rejected the traditional approach of teaching subjects in isolation, advocating for an integrated, interdisciplinary approach. He believed that knowledge should reflect the interconnectedness of life itself. Just as the real world does not divide itself neatly into academic disciplines, education should encourage students to draw on multiple fields of knowledge to solve problems and understand the world more fully. Interdisciplinary learning encourages students to see the connections between different areas of study, fostering creativity and critical thinking. This approach prepares students for the complexities of the modern world, where problems are rarely confined to a single discipline. Whether addressing global issues like climate change or local challenges in communities, interdisciplinary education equips students to think holistically and work collaboratively. Dewey's emphasis on breaking down barriers between disciplines has influenced modern educational practices such as project-based learning, where students engage in real-world projects that require knowledge from multiple fields. Emotional intelligence, understanding ourselves and others. Dewey also recognized the importance of emotional intelligence, the ability to understand, manage, and express emotions, in the educational process. He believed that education should nurture not only intellectual growth but also emotional development, helping students build empathy, self-awareness, and social skills. In today's world, emotional intelligence is recognized as a key factor in personal and professional success. Dewey's emphasis on emotional development in education has influenced the growing movement for social-emotional learning (SEL) programs in schools, which focus on helping students develop skills like emotional regulation, empathy, and resilience. By fostering emotional intelligence, Dewey's educational philosophy helps create more compassionate, self-aware individuals who can engage more meaningfully with others. Inquiry and problem-solving, active engagement with the world. At the core of Dewey's philosophy is the belief that inquiry, posing questions, exploring possibilities, and testing hypotheses, is central to learning. Dewey saw inquiry as a fundamental process of human cognition and problem-solving. He argued that education should cultivate curiosity and critical thinking, teaching students how to approach problems systematically and creatively. In Dewey's view, inquiry is not just for the classroom, it is a way of engaging with the world. It teaches students how to think critically, adapt to changing circumstances, and solve real-world problems. By encouraging inquiry and problem-solving, Dewey's educational philosophy helps students develop the skills necessary to navigate the complexities of life. Conclusion: the enduring relevance of John Dewey's philosophy. John Dewey's educational philosophy stands as a cornerstone of modern thought on learning, democracy, and personal growth. His belief in the interconnectedness of experience, reflection, and action offers a framework for not only how we should approach education but how we should approach life itself. Dewey's ideas transcend the classroom and challenge us to embrace continuous learning, engage critically with the world, and contribute actively to society. His vision of education as a lifelong process, one that integrates intellectual, emotional, and social growth, remains as vital today as it was in his time. At the heart of Dewey's philosophy is the idea that learning is an active, dynamic process. We do not simply receive knowledge, rather, we engage with it, reflect on it, and apply it to solve problems and improve ourselves. This active learning is not confined to formal education but extends throughout every aspect of life. Whether we are facing challenges in our careers, relationships, or personal growth, Dewey encourages us to approach these experiences with the same curiosity and open-mindedness that we would bring to a classroom. Through hands-on engagement, questioning, and reflection, we make meaning of our lives and our place in the world. The idea that education should not be a static transmission of knowledge but a social, participatory process has also had a lasting impact on how we view the role of schools in society. Dewey envisioned a democratic society in which individuals were not only educated in academic subjects but also in the practices of democracy itself. Education, in this view, is not just about preparing individuals for the workforce but about preparing them to be responsible, active members of a democratic community. In Dewey's ideal world, schools are not just places for individual achievement but spaces for collaboration, dialogue, and mutual respect. This emphasis on social learning, on building communities within the classroom and beyond, provides a framework for addressing some of the most pressing challenges of our time, including social inequality, political polarization, and environmental degradation. Moreover, Dewey's insistence that learning must be connected to the real world and practical experience challenges the traditional view of education as separate from the realities of life. In Dewey's philosophy, theory and practice must work hand in hand. Knowledge is not something abstract but something that must be tested and applied to the world around us. This is why Dewey was such a strong advocate for experiential learning, learning through doing. He recognized that only when we engage with real-world problems do we truly understand the relevance of our education. Whether it's through internships, projects, or community-based learning, Dewey's principles encourage us to connect our intellectual endeavors to meaningful outcomes. This idea has influenced modern education systems across the globe, from hands-on STEM projects to interdisciplinary coursework that encourages students to apply their learning in real-life contexts. Dewey's emphasis on lifelong learning is perhaps one of his most enduring contributions to modern thought. In an age of rapid change, where technology, social norms, and global challenges evolve at an unprecedented pace, Dewey's call for continuous learning is more relevant than ever. The ability to adapt, to embrace new knowledge, and to remain intellectually and emotionally flexible is essential in navigating a world that is constantly shifting. Dewey's philosophy helps us see learning as a process that never ends but continues throughout our lives. It encourages us to be curious, to seek out new experiences, and to view challenges not as obstacles but as opportunities for growth. Equally significant is Dewey's focus on the emotional and social dimensions of education. He believed that education should nurture not just cognitive skills but also emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and empathy. The development of these skills is essential not only for personal growth but for the health of society as a whole. In a world where social divisions often seem insurmountable, Dewey's advocacy for democratic engagement and mutual respect provides a model for how we might bridge these divides. By learning to engage with others in thoughtful, empathetic ways, we can foster a sense of community and cooperation that is necessary for building a just and equitable society. Dewey's philosophy also has profound implications for the role of teachers and educators. He saw teachers not as mere transmitters of knowledge, but as facilitators of growth and exploration. Teachers, in Dewey's view, are guides who help students navigate the complexities of learning, encouraging them to think critically, question assumptions, and engage actively with the material. This view of the teacher as a mentor and guide rather than a mere instructor has transformed educational practices worldwide, shifting the focus toward student-centered learning, inquiry-based education, and collaborative problem-solving. One of Dewey's most radical contributions was his understanding of democracy, not as a system of government but as a way of life. Dewey saw democracy as a continuous, interactive process, not a static institution. In his view, democracy involves not just voting and participating in political life but also actively engaging in the community, listening to others, and working collaboratively to address shared problems. Education, in this framework, becomes a means of preparing individuals for active, informed participation in democracy. Dewey's ideas have shaped the way we think about civic education, emphasizing the importance of teaching young people not just about political systems, but about the values of cooperation, respect, and active engagement. Finally, Dewey's vision of education as a tool for personal and social transformation challenges us to think about what education is for. Is it merely to prepare individuals for the workforce, or is it to equip them to live meaningful, engaged, and responsible lives? Dewey's philosophy suggests that education should be about fostering the whole person, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. It should help individuals develop the skills to solve problems, think critically, and engage empathetically with others. Most importantly, education should teach individuals to be active, engaged citizens who work to improve society and make it more just, equitable, and democratic. In conclusion, John Dewey's philosophy of education offers a timeless and flexible approach to learning that is as relevant today as it was over a century ago. His emphasis on experience, reflection, social learning, democracy, and lifelong growth provides a powerful framework for understanding how we learn and how we live. Dewey's ideas encourage us to view learning not as a fixed, static process, but as a dynamic, interactive journey that is deeply connected to the world around us. Whether in the classroom, in the workplace, or in our personal lives, Dewey's teachings inspire us to be more reflective, more engaged, and more committed to lifelong learning and growth. They challenge us to approach life not as passive observers but as active participants in the ongoing project of creating a more thoughtful, compassionate, and democratic world.